Tov, here we are again in Beis Medrash JFK or Minchas Chinuch. We're still in a time of milchama, still under attack. Unfortunately, and we are, Baruch Hashem, we're the attackers at this point also, defending Klal Yisrael. In fact, we unfortunately had 2 karbonos yesterday in South Lebanon. There was a til that paga, the dachbor, a bulldozer, that was mechaletz, a nagmash, that's a nosei, gaisot, meshuyanot, armored personnel carrier, and the til, the missile, killed 2 soldiers. One of them was a Druzi. His name is Mahar Khatar, Ben Shloshim Mishmona, 38 years old, from Magdal Shams, an Israeli soldier, a Druzi soldier. And since we're talking about the other soldier's name has not been lo purusam. They have the expression hutar lepurusam, that it's been permission to, unfortunately they have to inform the next of kin, and it's already been a long time, so it might be someone from Chutz La'aretz. Anyway, so we have 2 karbonos during our milchama, and it's also, at this point, we have our milchama is known as Shagat Ha'ari, the roar of the lion, and at the same time, our U.S. partners are in the war called Epic Glory, and unfortunately, we lost 7 soldiers, and they might not be Jewish, but again, we'll discuss the fact, what is their status. The Army Rescue soldiers, Army Reserve soldiers, the 103rd Sustainment Command, on March 1st, there was a drone attack at Port Shaiba in Kuwait, and in that attack, 6 soldiers were killed. The names are Captain Kodya Kark, 35 years old, from Winter Haven, Florida. Sergeant First Class Noah Tigens, 42, from Bellevue, Nebraska. Sergeant First Class Nicole M. Amar, 39, from White Beaver Lake, Minnesota. Sergeant Deegan J. Candy Cody, 20, from West Des Moines, Iowa. Major Jeffrey R. O'Brien, 45, from Indianola, Iowa. And Chief Warrant Officer 3, the 3rd, Robert M. Margon, 54 years old, from Sacramento, California. And yesterday, March 8th, a soldier died as a result of being wounded in Saudi Arabia on March 1st, also from an attack, and he died yesterday. His name was Sortfly Davis, 46, really at home, Queens, New York. And so these are all, the question is, Kol haneharag bil milchama al haganat a'am v'aretz nikra kodesh. So the question is, these member umos ha'olam, these lo Yehudim, Gentiles, who are fighting a war that ultimately is, of course, for the free world to rid this Resha, this evil power in Iran. The question is, they're also saving the Jews around the world, and especially in Eretz Yisrael. So the question is, what is their status? Are they considered Kedoshim? One thing's for sure, they might be considered Chasidei Umos Ha'olam, and on that subject of what constitutes Chasidei Umos Ha'olam, there's a definition from Yad Vashem, which is for anyone who saves Jews, but then it goes out of their ways, but like Schindler, people of that nature during the Holocaust, but it should be extended for anyone who gives up their life to save for the defense of Jews, as I just mentioned, should have a status of Chasidei Umas Olam. And to that effect, I'm going to post an article, halachic article that discusses it. And Shmaryahu, if you're listening to this portion, Imata Shomea Ta'keta Hazeh, Maha Matzav, what is the status of a non-Jewish soldier who gives up his life? Is he considered a kadosh? What is his status in halacha? And I want to begin this year, although we're in the middle of this year, I want to give it in honor of the chavod, certain cholim. I know Rosie mentioned that there is a chayal, Givati, who was niftzah kasher ma'od, Darom Levanon, and Zakuk, the mother says, Zakuk l'rachmei shamayim. That was Kriyas. The mother, his name is Metanel ben Sivya, so he should have a refuah shlema, Yeshua. And of course, our friend Avram Yitzchak ben Sima, Shlomo Yosef ben Sima, Gershon David ben Golda. I got an update on those two. One of them, Gershon David, got a bone marrow, and the question is, it takes 4 to 5 weeks to graft, so he should have refuah shlema. And Shlomo Yosef ben Sima is going to have a nituach lev, is going to have a heart operation, so he should also have, especially have a refuah shlema. Chana bas Isha, and of course our whole list, we should have them in mind. Before we get to today's yortzites, Chaf Adar, Reb Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, who was a fixture in Shari Chesed, where I am right now, and Moshe ben David Landinsky, we know is related to the Chavetz Chaim and Radin, when you hear that name, and then Moshe ben Chaim Meir, the Shomrei Chaim, his father was the Shomrei Chaim, the Yeshua's Moshe, Visionitzer, we will talk about him. And I just want to mention the fact that I am here and not at the Kotel. Mirz Hashem, I made an effort to get there, but the ride did not work out, and they have a limited number of people at the Kotel, Rach HaMishim, and the Hanchayot are still in effect. So, and unfortunately, we still go down to shelters. There are zakot all through the land, and the warheads are even more dangerous. And whoever is listening to this and is in Israel really should take. I say we're right now. People ask me, "What kind of person am I?" I says, "I'm a sheltered individual because I spend most of my time in a shelter." Anyway, let's get back. Let's get to the Tehillim of today, and the Tehillim is Kuf Lamed Beis.
Kuf Lamed Bet. Shir HaMa'alot. Zecho Adonai LeDavid et kol unoto. Asher nishba l'Adonai nadar
Lavi Yaakov.
Im avo be'ohel beti, im e'ele al eres yetzurai, im eten shenat le'enai, le'af tenuma, ad emtza makom l'Adonai, mishkanot
Lavi Yaakov.
הנה שמענוה ואפרתה, מצנוה
V'steyar.
נבואה למשכנותיו, נשתחווה לאדום רגליו. קומה אדוני למנוחתך, אתה ואהרון עוזך, כהניך ילבשו צדק, וחסידיך ירנה.
I just want you to know that I actually started a song of my own composed, but I have not finished it. It goes, Ko kohanecha yilbeshu tzedek v'chasidecha yeranenu. Ko kohanecha Yilbeshu tzedek v'chasidecha yeranenu. I'm not looking to see unfinished symphony. Anybody who wants to come up with a good ending, we have a really wonderful niggin. Let's continue to the Mizmor.
בעבור דוד עבדך,
זכר,
אל
תשב
תשב
משיחך.
פני משיחך.
נשבע
אדוני
דוד,
לדוד,
אמת לא ישוב.
ממנה, מפרי בטנך, אשית לכיסא לך. אם ישמרו בניך בריתי, ועדותי זו אלמדם, גם ביניהם עד עד, ישבו לכיסא לך. כי בחר אדוני בציון, איבה למושב לו, זאת מנוחתי עד עד, פה אשב, כי איביתיה, צדה, ברך אברך, אביוניה, אשביעה לכם, וכהניה, אלביש ישע, וחסידיה, רנן ירננו. שם אצמיח קרן לדוד, ערכתי נר למשיחי, אויביו אלביש בושת, ועליו יציץ נזרוף.
אחינו, כל בית ישראל, אחינו, כל בית ישראל, הנשונים בצרה ובשביה, עומדים בין בים ובין ביבשה. המקום ירחם עליהם ויוציאם מצרה, לרווחה ומאפל ליורה, ומשיבה לגאולה השתה בגולה, ובזמן קריב ונאמר אמן. And we, for our Yiddish listeners, Tzvi sends his regards. He wishes that he could be here together at the Kotel, and also that of course we would be safe enough for us to go to the Kotel and not be limited. Anyway, so the last pasuk in Kuf Lamed Beis is Oivov Albish Boshet Zayin Feint Vet Ir Unton Shanda Va'olav Yatzitz Nizro und auf David HaMelech Vet Leichtain Kroin Zayin Gedula Vet Groizayin. And that's the Yiddish for today. And let's get to the Reb Shlomo Zalman ben Reb Chaim Leib Urbach Nolad ב-1910 בירושלים, בשכונת שערי חסד, שאני נמצא כאן, ונפטר שם ביום כ' אדר, שזה היום, ב-1995. יותר מרבע מיליון איש השתתפו בהלווייתו. אמו, צביה, הייתה ביתו של רב שלמה זלמן פורש, שעלה בגיל 10 עם הוריו הליטאים מאירופה. שם פורש, מה המקור? כי אבי המשפחה פורש ממשפחתו לשנה שלמה לפני עלייתו, כדי להתקדש את עצמו בהתבודדות לקרות ישיבתו בארץ הקדושה. שלמה זלמן הוא על שם הסבא מצד אמו, מצד אביו הראש ישיבה של שער שמיים, מתייחס רב שלמה זלמן אורבך אל רב יעקב יוסף מפלונה הטולדוס. הסבא היה אדמו"ר מצ'רנוביץ'. בשנת 1930, בי"ד אדר בפורים, משולש, נישא רב שלמה זלמן את חיה רבקה בת לב רוחמקין. אברהם יצחק הכהן קוק סידר את החופה, הוא גם כובד בסנדקוס לבנו הבכור של רב שלמה זלמן. הבן הזה נקרא שמואל. רב שלמה זלמן למד בישיבת עץ חיים אצל רב איסר זלמן מלצר, היה רבו המובהק. היה פוסק חדשני מקיף, בקיא בכל התורה, אבל גם בכל החידושים הטכנולוגיים היה מגדולי פוסקי הדור. רב נורברט חיבר את הספר המפורסם שמירת שבת כהלכתה, ומבוסס הרבה פסקי דין של רב שלמה זלמן. העיד רב שלמה זלמן על עצמו שלפני ניסיון שיעור לתלמידיו הוא לומד מוסר מהספר שערי תשובה לרבנו יונה. ומדוע? משום שיש בחורים השואלים בשיעור שאלות שלא לעניין. You know, they call it a klutz kasha. והוא חושש לפגוע בהם. Sometimes the Rebbeim say, what a stupid question. Horrible thing to say. המוסר מחזק אותו שלא להיכשל בכך. By learning Musar, he learns not to embarrass the Talmud. ולכן ידוע שהגאונים מתקשים לסבול תמיד המטריד אותם בשאלה שאינה שייכת לעניין. There are many gaonim, as they say, when they give a shir, if they hear a question that's not l'inyan, they're very upset. Ba'od heim oskim b'artzot rayon niskav, when they're trying to develop a complicated idea. Li'itim t'kuvosam hi'charifa. And sometimes their response to such a question is very sharp, umaliva b'yoser, and very embarrassing. Es Reb Shlomo Zalman haya talmid kazeh shomea rak yesh kam bilbul. He'd always find he had a certain Talmud that was a challenge. We call him to stay challenged, and how to deal with him. That's why you have to learn some Mussar beforehand. Shnayim Misper Lefnei P'tirotom Halchol La'amal Kalato Rabbanit Rachel Orbach Be'emsa Yemei Hashiva Hitchaten Yatom Baal Tshuva Yeshivat Malos HaTorah V'hinei Asher Reb Shlomo Zalman Ma'amatzim Elohim V'alach L'chatuno Kshebiu Mekorvav Tmiya Amar Lem Af Al Pi Kain B'achur Kazeh Tzarich L'Sameach. So you see the tremendous midas. Of course, the famous story of Shlomo Zalman when he went to a doctor and they were talking about his wife's wounds or wife's pain. He said, our pain. He referred to the fact that whatever his wife, he was so dedicated to wife, whatever pain she had, he considered his pain. Banav, Chatunav, his son, Reb Shmuel Orbach, is Rosh Hashiva Malos Torah, V'chaver Me'otzes Kedoli Torah Shoteg Torah, Barbarvam Dov Orbach, Rav in Tiveria, Rav Israel Orbach, Chatan, Rav Yosef Shlomo Shalom Ilyoshev, Rav Mordechai Orbach, Rosh Kilat Abir Yaakov B'Tel Aviv, Rav Meir Simcha Orbach, Rosh Yeshiva Haran, Rav Yeshiva Bet Alit, Rav Yaakov Orbach, Rosh Yeshiva Beit Shemesh, Rav Baruch Orbach, Hotzi Amarit, Al Gazi Hasholem. Baruch Hashem, he was Zoche to Abanim Talmidei Chachomim. From his Talmidim, I mentioned Yoshua Norbat, the Mechaber of Shmir Shabbos Chilchaso, and of course Rabbi Avigdor Halevi Nebenso, the Rav Arov Rishalayim. And from his Svarim was Mincha Shlomo, Shelish Tuvus Al Shas, Ma'adani Aretz El Hilchas Atliyas Ba'aretz, Ma'orei Eish, Mishnose Electronica, Shulchan Shlema. Okay. Siper Harav Shlomo Aviner, B'maro Al Kivrei Tzadik, and Mesupar Al Gon Rav Shlomo Zalman Orbach, Shepam Nasami Beit B'shari Chesed Yeshiva Kol Torah B'bayit V'kan, Atzar Mul Harsof Amar, and this is exactly what I was talking about, Elu. When he saw Har Herzl, he says, Elu Kivrei Tzadikim, these are the graves of righteous. Achen Chayal, any soldier. Gam im Eino Tzadek B'chayav. And I've seen articles that talk about the fact that they are kadoshim, even if they were not shomrei mitzvahs during their life, but they gave their life willingly as in defense of Eretz Yisrael, Harei Tzadik, Bezeh Shemasa Nafsho Avor Am Yisrael. And of course, what does Rav Shlomo Zalman consider a tzaddik? Is a person who gives his life for Klal Yisrael. Halicha Shlomo Samadim. Okay, we have Mincha Shlomo. He talks about Ma'ater Dion Aruch B'Shas Echad L'Misha Od Lo Kibel Olav Shabbos Achar Pav Nishkei Lasos Kiddush L'Anoshim Beit Chol and Sol Beit Kabbalah Shabbat Achar Kach. Many nursing homes because the residents cannot stay up late for a Shabbos to have a regular meal. So there are people who make Kiddush earlier. Today is also the yahrzeit of Moshe ben David Lindansky, שנולד ב-1862 ונפטר ב-1938, נולד בפולניה, בגיל 22 התחתן, היה אברך בכולל ברודסקי בוולוז'ין, היה שם 8 שנים, ב-1900 נקרא על ידי החפץ חיים להיות הראש ישיבה ברדן, בהמלצת מורה הנציב מוולוז'ין, ב-1928 לצידו היה ראש ישיבה מנחם מנדל זקס, the son-in-law of the Chavetz Chaim, who niftar, Moshe Landinsky in London, Begios Ksafim, when he was collecting money for the yeshiva, but he was buried, Nikbar Baradin. Tzetza'o, his descendants. If Tzvi were here, we'd find out how, I think his Rebbetzin, Tzvi's Rebbetzin is related to Chaim Plato, who was Miyased, Yeshivas Radin and Netanya, and but Moshe Vandinsky is Mechaber. They wrote a sefer about him in Yeshvile Radin. Okay, today is also the Yartzeit Agam Zekam Ken Yartzeit of Moshe ben Chaim Meir. Chaim Meir is the Imre Chaim. That's the father of Moshe, and we're talking about Moshe Hagar. The Mechuna was called Yeshua's Moshe. Why? Because of his sefer. Nolad be'elf shamot sheishrei v'niftar ba'alpayim b'shtemesrei. Nolad beTransylvania, Begil, Shvasrei lamad b'yeshivas Vizhnitz, v'husmach he got his smicha Begil Esrim, be'elf shamot shloshim v'teisha kim yeshivat beGrozarayin, Rosh Yeshiva be'elf shamot arba'im v'chamesh b'Tel Aviv, be'elf shamot shivim v'shtayim haya admur chamishi Vizhnitz, v'kamosha amarti hu chiberet Yeshua's Moshe kuntris halikutim. Okay, ad kan hayortzaitim shel hayom. Hayom amarti shezeh chaf adar, ve'anachnu medabrim, anachnu beperek lamed zayin, b'nidchei Israel, b'seif tet. Suda tzarich lechol keifef. Right after Kiddush, you shouldn't delay. You should have your Suda. Suda, Kiddush b'makom Suda. L'chein dato b'shas Kiddush le'echol la'alter. It's interesting, in the altar we always think about the ger, we just talk about visions, but altar means immediately. Kan, ve'afilu im iru achar kach eza ones, even if he, for some reason against, something happened that he had a delay, mikol mokom kivin shelo yotza b'intayim, as long as he did not leave the place, was not mafsik, ain't tzorich lachzor l'kadesh. He could eat the Suda delayed, and he doesn't have to make Kiddush again. Aval im, ein dato lechol miyad. But if he specifically makes Kiddush, and he really does not have in mind to eat immediately, also dato lahafzik b'dvarim acherim, but he really has in mind to do other things, v'gam hifsik, afilu li'ol yotza mikama, as long as he did not have in mind to eat immediately, even if he did not leave his place, he's still in the same location. And he ate instead of making such a kiddush. You have to make to eat immediately afterwards. Have to in mind when you make kiddush that you're going to make hamotzi or mazonos or whatever you're going to have makom suda immediately. But if you have in mind when you made kiddush to eat in another place, the nimlach, and it turns out you change your mind and you ate in the same place, you don't have to make another kiddush because you had in mind to go the other place. As long as you were in this place and you ate the suda immediately, that's considered okay. You don't have to make kiddush again. Paragraph Yud. Im kiddush b'pina zu. It's a very big hall. And a big, kiddush, like you're having a gigantic kiddush, and there's a big hall, and you're in one corner, v'nimlach, lechol, b'pina cheres, and then you decide to go to the other side of the hall, b'oto cheder, as long as it's the same room, afilu gadol harbe, even if it's a gigantic room, ein tzorich lachzor l'kadosh. That's not considered like leaving the room. It's all one big room. V'imaya b'dato lechol b'cheder echad, sheboso bayis, and as long as he had in mind to eat within another room in the same house, mahani. Again, you don't have to make kiddush again. If you go from one house to another house, acher legamri, another house completely, lo mahani, you're making kiddush does not help in that other place. Even if you had in mind, tzorich lachzor l'kadesh, when you go there, you have to make another kiddush. As long if you made kiddush in one place and you ate a little there, so you're yotzei the kiddush b'makom suda. You don't have to make in the other place. But if you didn't eat anything in this place, you have to make the other place separately, kiddush and makom suda. Paragraph Yud Aleph, asur lit om klum, Kodem Shekadesh, you're not supposed to eat anything before you make Kiddush. Afilu Mayim, even water. It turns out that we are Mekil, that we allow coffee and tea. Afilu Im Hiskil B'Od Yom, and even if you had a meal before Alos HaShachar, I'm sorry, even during the day, we're talking about Kiddush at night, even if you are eating an afternoon, we're going to discuss if you have a Suda, a bris, or, if you had some sort of, you're eating a big meal before Kabbalah Shabbos, Tzorech Lahafsik, you have to stop, make a motzi, make a birchas hamazon, mishu toiv lechol yochol akdim leil Shabbos. And however, if a person is really hungry and he really can't concentrate, he could be Makabel Shabbos early, could make the Suda early, as long as Lispala b'plag mincha, it's only he davens plag mincha ve'elech, umuter l'kadosh v'lechom and yom, because that's Tosfos Shabbos. The kiva mitzvah lahosif mikol al kodesh nechshav galayla achira lachzov likros kriyashma kishiagia zmana. As long as you later on at night you say kriyashma. Paragraph Yud Beis. Im hischil lechol min ba'od yom. If he began to eat during the day, Nachol sheyochal akol panim kazayis kishnecha. So as we discussed before, still he should, if he can, he should make an effort to eat at least a kazayis later on at the evening, so it's considered a Suda Shabbos. Kadeshiyah kol hashol Shudas b'Shabbos atzma. So all of them will be on Shabbos itself. Kediksiv ichluhu hayom. You should eat it on the day, the 3 sudos. This is in Shmos Perek Tezayin Pasuk Chaf Mikol makom im efshar lo yachol ligmor asuda mebod yom. Even if he can't finish the suda during the day, kibbutz chashvin layla im rotza lekabel Shabbos be'od yom u'kadesh v'le'echol v'achar kach v'spal arvus b'layla kam ken rishoy. If he wants to be makabel Shabbos early, as we said, after plag mincha, and make kiddush and to eat, and then later on daven ma'ariv, in other words, not even daven ma'ariv, eating before daven ma'ariv, he could do that. That's also permissible. Paragraph Yud Gimel. Im shachach l'kadosh b'layla. What happens if he sat down for a meal and he said, "Oh, I didn't make kiddush." Ad akatam amosi. Em adayin lo tam amosi. This is what happens. He sits down, he makes a motzi, and he did not taste the motzi yet. And he realized in his mind, "Oh, I didn't make kiddush." So he said, you could yikadish ala pas. He could make kiddush on the pas, the hainu. She'omer berachas asher kiddushan v'sos, and he says the beginning of the kiddush, v'gomer, and he finishes it, v'ein tzorich lachzor l'varach hamotzi. And he doesn't have to say a motzi again. He already made the motzi. And the im yesh lo lechem mishnah, yavi gam ken lo lechem mishnah, v'lo mekre hefsek ha'idei haba. And especially he should bring the lechem mishnah, so he makes the kiddush on lechem mishnah, v'lo yikadish oz al hayayin, but he doesn't have to make kiddush again on the wine. Af im mezuman lefanav kedei shelo. Even if the wine is right in front of him, remember, this is what took place. He made a motzi, then he realized that he didn't make kiddush, and therefore what he does on wine, even though he has wine in front of him, what he does is he immediately says the vaychulu, he says the asher kiddushan b'mitzvot rasavanu, and he says that nusach of the kiddush, and then he brings over the lechem mishnah and he makes a motzi, and that's kiddush on the pas, so to speak. But if he has yayin in front of him, he doesn't have to make kiddush again on the wine. He already yotze with shelo yafsik bein hamotzi l'achila. The reason that he doesn't make kiddush on the wine is because it would constitute a hefsek. He already made the motzi. He's got to eat the bread afterwards. So we've reached the conclusion of today's shir. And Baruch Hashem, there were no azakot. We're sitting here in base measures, minchas chinuch, peacefully, and we should have b'schus, the learning, the tehillim, the refuos and yeshuos. Chaim tovim!